life keeps changing day by day, like a hurricane. They say that nothing ever stays the same. But what became of the love that we once had? And when the good times turn to bad, remember, it ain't the big things that make my heart sing. I'm just waiting on the phone to ring, 'cause it's a small talk makes a bigger picture. Brothers and sisters, it's a small talk that paints a bigger world. So when you're out there on your own, far away from home, and you're searching from your soul for some love solid, just remember this, it's a small talk, paints a bigger picture. That's where the heart is. It's a small talk, it makes a bigger world. Just get started, so when you're ready and you're able, pull a chair up to the table. Oh, it's a small talk, it makes a bigger picture. Brothers and sisters, it's a small talk, paints a bigger world.
Okay, welcome to episode 8 of Big Conversations with Small Talk. I'm Alex here again with Sarah and Megan. We have a lot of really cool stuff planned. We have a great special guest today, but we'll jump right into the results of our background contest, which I'm certainly very pleased with. I like to win. So I know you guys have some questions for me. Well, I guess we can put it up and we can dive right in case anybody missed what the contest was. That's fun.
This feels like a lot of Alex.
Yes, right. It's like who is who. It's like just 2 pictures of me, right? That makes it fun. All right, so I know you guys have a couple questions.
Yeah, so our first question is, how does it feel to be compared to John Legend?
Well, he's clearly very talented and very popular. So that's always nice to be compared to somebody who has a skill that I definitely don't have, which I think it's pretty cool. So it's a good comparison. So I have no complaints. I should have no complaints.
Awesome. Well, our second question is, being compared to John Legend is pretty cool. He's really talented, as we know. Have you ever considered a career as a John Legend impersonator, like going around and signing autographs and performing and things like that?
No, not until now. They didn't really have that degree program at MSU, celebrity impersonation.
I'm so surprised.
Yeah, I know. It was, even if it was like an elective or something like that, maybe that would have been not a core class, like not everybody has to take it. But yeah, I never really, I had a one-track mind coming out of school. Never really thought about getting into the celebrity impersonation game, but we'll see how things go here. Maybe when I retire, if we continue to look similar as we age, maybe I can just go on tour as old John Legend. In 30 years, that would be fun. So yeah, maybe my post small talk plans have been established here today. That does sound exciting.
So glad we can help you plan your future, Alex.
Yeah, I think it's great. I had really been stuck on just working at a library, but I think this would be more fun.
So because you look so similar, we're wondering if you've ever been mistaken for him in the Lansing area or anywhere else, I guess.
Right. No, I have. Well, I guess before I have to thank Aubrey. She's our lead forensic interviewer. She was the one who, when we kind of put this out to staff, she shot that one out really, really quick. So she already had that one ready to go. And she's told me that before, like about a year and a half ago. But no, I mean, nobody's ever mistaken me for John Legend, just when I've been out in public. I guess, especially since I spend most of my time in Lansing, I don't know if many people would think, why is John Legend, at a Big B getting a hot chocolate? Yeah, I mean, not very often. I did see him in concert when he came to Lansing, when he came to Common Ground. This was probably like, I don't know, over 10 years ago, which was pretty cool. But no, I mean, nobody like bum rushed me at the concert or anything, or wondered why how he could be in two places at once. So yeah, it's been pretty low key life for me so far. Maybe this will change things though. Who knows?
Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Alex. We're glad you won another week of our background competition.
Yeah,
Get those numbers up a little bit
yes, really, really glad to hear that. All right. So now we want to move on to our, we have a new segment that we wanted to include that's, what's happening at Small Talk. So last time we talked about our why. We had our board president, Annie Harrison, on just to kind of talk about sort of our journey with Small Talk. But we wanted to share with you we've been sharing resources and, tips and tricks that you can use during these really difficult times. But we wanted to just talk about kind of what we're doing at Small Talk and what's going on there too, so people can be updated and know what we're doing. So I know, Megan, you have one quick update to share with us.
Yeah, so we have officially started doing teleforensic interviews. So we have not been able to do any of those since early March. So it's been really great to be able to get some of those scheduled and get some kids in to be able to talk about, what's happened with them. And for me, it's just been really great to be able to have more contact with families and to be able to continue to serve those who really need us right now. I think we've done like 4 in the last week or so. But, we're starting to get more comfortable with the technology. And what's really cool is that we are using a computer screen. So it's talking pretty similar to, how we are filming big conversations. And there was a little bit of, hesitation with what kids would think about sitting in front of a computer screen and having these conversations. And really, it's been no different than a normal face-to-face conversation. I think technology really helps kids feel a lot more comfortable. And it's just been a pretty easy, smooth transition. And our 2 forensic interviewers, Aubrey and Thomas, have just been doing fantastic work getting these interviews done. And the team has been awesome. Law enforcement has been great in being able to jump in. And we've been able to do these interviews with law enforcement officers who are across the state too, which is really cool, just to be able to have people present and collect, more information that they need for their case. And it's really great just to be able to get back into doing these interviews.
Yeah, I think it's been really great to see that we've tried to mirror the, quote unquote, regular forensic interview process to be as similar as we can now. The reason we wanted to do teleforensic interviews so we could still continue to provide forensic interview services for kids, that then gets them access to our counseling services and helps get the court process rolling and everything like that. So it's been really, essential for us to get that up and running and to see that, there has been really no change for the kids, especially kids who are coming in. It's their first time getting a forensic interview too, so they don't know any different. They don't know what the in-person is like versus on a screen. And we've had to make those accommodations to make sure that our, staff is safe and that the kids are safe as well, and have as few people in the office as possible. But I think, what we've been able to see is that we can make it work. and that these kids are still feeling the sense of relief and still getting access to the services, which is the most important thing at the end of the day. And as much as we can not disrupt that, and kind of keep the train moving so that these kids can get services, that's what we want to do. So, we definitely want to thank, Megan, you were, a big part of that forensic interview process, and then Thomas and Aubrey, as well as our interviewers, who have just been, really, it's a big adaptation for them, but, they've been doing a great job with their interviews. So we'll do a special shout out to them since they're not here today, but thank them for all their work. So Sarah, I know you have an update for us as well.
Yeah, so as counselors, we have switched entirely. As of May 13th, we switched our sessions to be all virtual online sessions. And so, that's something that none of us have ever done before either. Definitely a big change, big transition for us. And, we were also a little bit nervous about how this would, work for families and kids. But it's actually gone really well for all of us counselors, and we've had a total of 228 counseling sessions since March when we switched over. So that feels like a big success, and we are settling into it now and kind of getting into the groove. So we're happy to be able to just kind of provide seamless services for the kids and families that we work with, and overall it's just been going really well. So positive update.
Yeah, it's really cool, being a small part of that. I don't have a huge caseload. You certainly have more kids than I do, Sarah, but just to see like how some of the kids are responding to teletherapy, and to know too that we've actually like started some kids with teletherapy and not started with them in person, which is really cool. I mean, I think I was, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, and certainly like the in-person contact, and we know that there's a lot more online counseling services that are available certainly now than there were like when I started my career. So it is something that is more common. It's a way, like Megan said, that kids are used to interacting with people more than ever. We're just not used to it because we're adults and we didn't grow up with this technology necessarily. So but yeah, it's cool to see that kids can still heal through a screen, and that it doesn't have to be in person. So
right. Yeah, it's like they don't even notice a difference sometimes. So
yeah,
it feels great to be able to do that for them.
Yeah, that's great. All right, cool. All right, so we'll hand it off to Megan, who's going to talk about transitioning from the school year to summer. So we know a lot of kids have just finished up their school year within the last few days and are excited for summer activities. I know the end of the school year maybe didn't end the way that any of us planned for it to end. But making that transition, that change from, one kind of schedule and lifestyle to another can be complicated. So Megan, go ahead and take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So, like Alex said, it was a really tough end of the school year for parents, teachers, kids, everybody. Teaching your students while they're at home, doing things virtually, for parents who had to figure out, what life is like as a teacher, as a co-teacher, and as a parent, and also a worker, was crazy, and it was hectic, and it was, I'm sure really fantastic for a lot of families who were able to spend so much time with their kids over the last few months as well. But now we are done with this school year, which is, I'm sure, a big relief for a lot of parents, because schoolwork is hard and it's tough to have to stay on top of all that paperwork and all of those like grading and balancing everything all at once is really tough. But of course, we've heard lots of possibilities for what the next school year will look like, including the possibility of, having to do virtual school starting in the fall, with hopefully being able to transition back to school for the second part of the school year. So, I'm sure lots of people have been starting to wonder, like, how can I keep my kid or my kids, ready to go back, but still letting them like have a summer vacation and making it feel like summer vacation while still, making sure that they're retaining the information that they worked so hard to learn this school year. So just, I think a really important piece is to keep the schedules that we have worked on. Of course, loosening them up a little bit, allowing for more flexibility within the day, but still making sure that, you have some sort of schedule that you can kind of stick to, which will really help when we have to start transitioning back into the school year, whether that be in person or virtual. Having that schedule is key to an easy transition from school to summer back to school. Still provide lots of time for your kids to get outside. You don't have to necessarily sit down and do, school paperwork or different, learning forms and things like that. Get your kids outside and help them, provide them with opportunities for exploratory learning. So sending your kids outside to go look for rocks and talk about what those rocks mean and how long they've been here for and all different things like that. There's so many ways that kids can learn by just, taking in the resources that we have right outside our door or even right inside our house. All sorts of things like, you can learn about history, you can learn about heritage, you can learn about math, all sorts of things are right here. And when kids do that kind of learning, it doesn't really feel like they are learning. It helps them to feel like they're doing something really fun. So making sure that you're just providing them with lots of opportunities to learn in a way that doesn't really feel like learning for them. You want to be able to take time for your kids to still see their friends. So now that, we're able to kind of get out and go to more places, which I think Sarah's going to talk about a little bit more too. But, now is a great time for your kids to be able to have some play dates and be able to see friends that they haven't seen in a long time while still being able to keep a little bit of social distancing, but still have fun and enjoy their summer. Doing things like playing in the sprinklers or making your own slip and slide, different things like that are really great ways to be able to, have fun and enjoy their company without having to go to places that might be a little bit more busy, like lakes and pools and things like that. And you want to be able to plan for the outdoor learning activities in order to make sure that, the kids are keeping up on everything that they worked so hard and what, parents have worked so hard to build up. And then as we start to transition into the next school year, just making sure that you have that schedule, that you start working with your children, just to remind them, school might look a little bit different right now, but we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that it feels normal and that it feels like we're not really missing out on, our traditional school feeling and all of the work that you do with your classmates and your teachers and things like that. And just take time as parents and caregivers to set aside time for yourself, set aside time to just bond with your kids in a way that feels, like we haven't really been able to do much of that with like the craziness of the last few months, but being able to just have time to go on play dates or even meet up with some of your friends who have other children. That way it's, you're still able to provide a lot more for your kids, and making sure that this summer feels as normal as it possibly can without being, too overwhelming and stuff like that.
I was muted. I said, that's great, Megan. You have, as you were talking, it was just, I remember sort of the transition from like finishing the school year to then going into the summer. And that was always like such an exciting time for me as a kid, and I'm sure it was for you guys too. But this school year is obviously like pretty different. I think for maybe some kids, it felt like summer vacation kind of started a little bit early, or it's just like the transition or the differentiation between the school year and no school year, I think was kind of like blurred maybe for a lot of families. So I think this is really good to, just kind of call attention to it and still, we've talked about this a lot, but just that level of consistency, because especially like getting back into the school year, like I know that would be the time where I was like up late playing video games, and it's like the week before school, I'm like, okay, I got to get like a regular sleep schedule going, because this isn't going to work when I have to wake up at 6 a.m. to get ready for school. But but as you were talking, I was trying to think, and I was curious for you guys, like what was your favorite sort of summer activity when you guys were kids?
I think when Megan brought up the slip and slide, that brought back a lot of really great memories. So anything that was like just so refreshing and outside was like my favorite. So we did slip and slide a tiny little hill in my bed. And then another thing I remember is we had a trampoline, and if we could get somebody to like spray us with the hose while we were jumping on the trampoline, it was like best of both worlds. So definitely
nice.
Those are my favorite.
I am a big proponent of trampolines. You cannot be sad and be on a trampoline at the same time. I think that's impossible. Yeah. There should be some kind of therapy around that.
Yeah.
Megan, how about you?
We slip and slides were a big thing for me as well. We like to make our own with like a tarp and some dish soap, so it was like extra slippery. And water balloons. We had like all sorts of water balloon fights where you would be in your normal daily clothes and you would play like hot potato with a water balloon, and then it was kind of disappointing but also really refreshing to be the one who got the balloon popped on them because you didn't catch it or something like that. And tie-dye. We did a lot of tie-dye in the summertime. But
nice. That's great. All right. Well, Megan kind of alluded to it, but Sarah's going to talk a little bit about, as we, the stay-at-home orders, been lifted and things are opening back up, but wearing a mask has been part of our sort of normal life for the past few months now. And Sarah has some tips and some ideas about, just adapting to, this new normal that we have of wearing a mask. So I'll hand it off to Sarah.
Yeah, thanks. So the reason why I'm talking about some tips specifically for kids wearing masks is because, now that places are opening up, our kids specifically are going to be going out a lot more. And like Alex said, the mask is still, a really important part of going out in public and required. And so masks can be, really unfamiliar or scary sometimes to kids. And if they haven't been out much in public so far, like during this pandemic, now might be a time when it's like we really got to get them used to it and understanding why everyone's wearing masks. So what's really important as I'm going through these tips is just to think about like, how can we make sure that we prepare kids for wearing masks before they actually have to do it out in public. So the earlier that we can start to kind of get them used to it, the easier it'll be on them and on you as their caregiver. So the first tip I have is just to start by explaining the reason for wearing the mask. And I guess, to back up a little bit, if you haven't had a chance to have a conversation with your child yet about what is coronavirus and, how things are changing in our world, that is an important place to start. And kids can learn about that in ways that are developmentally appropriate. So in our very first episode of Big Conversations, there's a segment all about that, and we have resources up on our website. So please check that out if you haven't had a chance to learn about that or talk to your kids about it yet. If your kids do know about coronavirus and they're kind of familiar with what's happening in our world, explaining the masks specifically helps them to feel like they have information and they might feel a little bit more in control of the situation when they have that knowledge and that information about why we're wearing masks. So just explaining to them in simple terms, like masks help to keep germs from spreading, and they keep us safe and they keep other people safe. That's all that really needs to be said. I also have a link up on our website to a YouTube video that helps to explain it as well if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable about what exactly to say, and that can be a good conversation starter too. So my next tip is to have your kids personalize their mask and feel like it's their mask that they created if possible. So especially with fabric masks, this can be done pretty easily with, allowing them to pick out their color or their pattern or design. You might also consider using like Sharpies or fabric paints if possible. I know that might be a little bit tricky with washing the mask, but if you have some temporary ones that they can use, that might be a great idea. I've even seen some stickers that, are very temporary and that could change every time they wear their mask too, which could make it fun for them. The only thing with this is that if you're using surgical type masks that are kind of that blue, like papery type material, those should not be decorated because that actually ruins the integrity of the mask and it's not as effective. So fabric masks, go for it, and hopefully that could be fun for your kids. Next, it's also really important to kind of model mask making, or mask wearing rather, for your kids. So before they have to go out in public and they see all these people wearing masks, if you could have family members or people who they feel really close to send a picture of themselves wearing masks, that helps them to see, like, it's not just me. It's not as much of a scary thing because these people who I really love are also wearing masks. And so it must be okay and it must be normal. And if you can kind of model wearing a mask around the house every once in a while, that helps just for their brain to get used to seeing it as well. And as you're practicing with your child to get ready for them to wear a mask in public, it's important to kind of take really slow steps to get them there. So rather than telling them, 5 minutes before you have to walk out the door and they might be needing to wear a mask for the potentially first time, practice it ahead of time. So if you can start, a week or 2 weeks even before, or even if you don't have anything planned, like just get started now. And that's a great opportunity to have them just put it on for like 1 minute or 5 minutes at a time and just slowly build up each time you're able to practice with them, how long of a period they're wearing it. And reinforce, like definitely with a lot of praise and even rewards for wearing the mask. And then, eventually it'll get a lot easier when they get rewarded for that too. You could also pair it with a really fun activity. So if they're, really into watching something on their tablet or like a favorite game that they like to play, having them wear it for a couple minutes while they're doing that can kind of make it a little bit easier for them too. And if your child's not able to start right away with wearing a mask, even for a minute or 5 minutes, you can substitute something else like a scarf or a bandana, maybe something that they already have that they're really familiar with, or something that you have that might smell like you and make it feel a little bit more comforting too is another option. And the last thing that I just wanted to say is that you can make it kind of fun, this idea of wearing a mask. So incorporating it into like dress up times or, pretending like you're a superhero or a doctor or a nurse or something really cool and exciting can be a great way to help your kids get used to it. And I've also seen some cool ideas about like putting masks on their favorite stuffed animals or dolls and things like that too. So those are my tips for today. I would say check out, if you haven't had a chance to talk to your kids about coronavirus, definitely go back to our first episode resources first, and then come back to these so that you can have the full conversation with them so that they're informed. But up on our website for this week is an infographic with a lot of these tips, and then the link for the mask YouTube video that explains it to kids as well. So check it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. I was good. There was a question I had and then I lost it.
That's
Oh,
okay.
it what? No, I got it back. So when you're talking, because one of the things that I think has been an adjustment, I think for me too, has just been the like having to wear it because like I've never really worn them. I've maybe worn a mask like maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, and never had to wear one before. So like the adjustment period I think was just really difficult, and especially if there are kids who are going to be outside of the house more frequently now. Like getting used to just having something on your face, I think is really important. So that tip of just like, even for a couple minutes a day, just kind of wearing it around the house just to get used to how it feels. And, if it is uncomfortable, adjusting it so it's more comfortable, because it is, I think for the foreseeable future going to be a pretty regular part of our life. So I think that piece of it's really important. And then the other thing that I was thinking, the question that I had was, what is like a cool mask that you guys have seen, or if you could like make your own, like what would it look like, or what would you do? Because I kept thinking, I was like, oh, if I really want to do my John Legend impersonating early, I could just do like from here down of him, and then
Just
maybe
a new
people,
face.
yeah, like then maybe people would just think that it really is him. So that was my idea, but I was more
That's
curious
cool.
if you guys had thoughts or things that you would want on your masks.
Well, Sarah, I love that you said, using like a piece of, like allowing the kids to wear or make a mask using something that they're familiar with, or like an old shirt or something like that. And I think it was the second or third episode I had shared the video, or at least the form for making your own t-shirt mask. I think that's a really cool way to be able to find an old t-shirt with like your favorite character or somebody, and cutting out that portion of the t-shirt, or mom or dad's favorite t-shirt, and having that mask. That's, I'm sure it feels a lot better on your face too when it's more of a t-shirt material than like the elastic and stuff like that too.
Right. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's so easy for kids to personalize it that way too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking for me, like, I think what I've been thinking a lot about is that it's so hard to read people's facial expressions, or like tell how people might even be feeling when we're wearing masks. And so I think if there is a way to just have one with like a nice message on it or something that's like, just spreading some happiness or kindness, I think that would just help people to recognize, like, even if you can't tell that people are still friendly, like we are still friendly and like interacting in human ways underneath the masks. So that's my mask dream.
I totally thought you were going to go a different direction, and this is honestly what I thought you were going to say, was that you'd have like a Velcro like mouth that you could like flip or
Change
like
the
turn around.
feeling?
Yeah, so you could be like, if you're not in a good mood, you could have like a frown,
That's
on
a
your
great
mask,
idea.
or a smile on your mask, or something like that.
You should
So you went a much
patent
more,
that, Alex.
yeah, I know, you went a much more normal direction, which I appreciate. But yeah, that's totally where I thought you were going. But I think that's great to just share positive, and I've seen a lot of that actually. That's the one that I've seen quite a bit, is people sharing like really positive messages on their masks, which is cool. So
Yeah, that's great.
There's also a really cool one that, of course it's a bit of an investment because it is Disney, but they have masks that have, it's like Mickey Mouse's face, or Marie from the Aristocats, or like different things like that. So you can be a Disney character from like the nose down, which is pretty cool. But of course, because it's Disney, they're kind of pricey for one mask, but still worth it for me.
I was gonna say, how many do you have, Megan? Do you have like
Just don't be surprised when I come to the office and Mickey Mouse.
Yes. That Marie from Aristocrats, that's a really deep cut. When you said Marie, I'm like, ooh, what Disney character is named Marie? But you're the resident Disney expert, so I will defer to you for sure. All right. Well, we have Tess coming up next with her Tess Talks, and then we are going to be joined by our special guest after that. So stay tuned.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Tess Talks. So this week I wanted to talk a little bit about what this summer is going to look like. I feel like it's going to be very different for a lot of people just because of what's been going on in the world, but summer's still here and thankfully we'll still be able to enjoy it. So something I thought might be helpful for parents, especially if they're still working at home, is coming up with a weekly schedule, something to do every single day to keep the kids busy while parents might be at home working, or just to kind of keep a routine throughout each week, and so there's something to look forward to and something to do every day. So we'll have a sample one, but you can really make it your own and do whatever works best for your family. Mondays could be craft day and Tuesdays could be try a new recipe day. So there's an example that you can look at and kind of tailor to fit your own family, but something to help get through the summer, something to make the days a little bit more fun and enjoyable, and something to look forward to while we're still kind of figuring out what's going on in the world. So take a look at the example that we have and tailor it to what's best for you and your family, and enjoy your summer. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, welcome back, and we have a super special guest with us today. Tabitha is with us. So do you want to do just a quick intro for yourself and introduce people to who you are, and then we'll dive into our questions for you.
Sure. I'm Tabitha Mamira. I'm excited to be here. So quick thing about me, mother of four, working on my doctorate in clinical psychology. I worked with Alex in good old crisis services. I got a lot of our experience there.
Right.
And I have 10 years of experience in mental health work, and a founder director of SGBV organization, mainly working in Uganda. So that's a summary.
Awesome. Great summary. So as we do with all of our guests, we want to, just start with a fun question for you. So Sarah's going to pull that up. You get to see what did we decide it was going to be called? The Wonder Wheel?
Oh, I can't remember. Let's just find a new name for it every time. How about that?
That's fun too. Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys see the wheel? Did it come up for you?
Yeah. Okay. I'm nervous.
These are not hard questions, hopefully. So
yeah.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. I guess it depends on which one you get, right?
Yes. Oh, we've been talking so much about this at Small Talk the past couple weeks. So, Tabitha, do you have any weird food combinations that you like?
The first one that came to mind, everybody makes fun of this. I like eating spaghetti with bananas. I know. I like a combination of, because I put a lot of spices in all my food. So it's spicy and salty, and a banana is sweet, and I feel like it's yeah.
So weird. Are they mixed together, or are you just eating them at the same time?
At the same time. No, it's not mixed together. Not.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like at the same time, like
okay.
take a turn.
Okay, I didn't know if that was sort of a replacement ingredient for something in the spaghetti. So that's
basil. I just put bananas.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Exactly. We have to clarify that. It's really
everybody's always like, "Oh, what are you doing?" So. Yeah.
I don't think that's that. I think if they're separate, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's fair. A lot of people, that was a common thing. I think that people like the sweet and spicy, or sweet and savory combination. So
yeah. What are yours? Do I just answer and I don't get to hear your weird one?
Oh yeah, we could share for sure. Mine, I think, was I like couscous with soy sauce and like Parmesan cheese mixed together. All mixed together. So yes, that was mine.
Huh. I'd have to try that. That sounds good.
It's good. It's very good.
Mine is from my childhood. I am proud to say I no longer eat it, but I used to be given peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches, which is gross. Yeah, but I really liked it when I was a kid. So
I don't have any weird, like, I'm similar to you. I like to do things together, and I like dill pickles with like a glass of sweet tea. So like a, I don't know, a tangy kind of sour and sweet. I do think somebody should share our coworker Aubrey's favorite combination though, because that is probably the strangest one.
That one is pretty strange. It was like Kraft, specifically Kraft macaroni and cheese and blueberry muffins. Is it blueberry muffins?
Mhm.
Yeah. Like mixed all together.
Like she breaks it with
Yeah.
it.
Right, exactly.
She cooks it together or like at the top?
Well, I think it's yeah, they're cooked separately and then joined together. Yeah.
oh,
I think.
we'll have to
I don't,
clarify with Aubrey. It's very confusing.
we
and
need
I
to
feel
have
like
her on the show just for a strange food segment and not ask her any other questions and then just move on. Because yeah, we
Right.
need some clarification. People will want answers. The hundreds of people that watch this show are going to be really curious now. So
So, okay, well, Tabitha, thank you for answering our silly question. We also just have another question before we dive too deep. We have posted your TED Talk and we've all seen it and love it. And we just are so curious to hear from you about what is it like to do a TED Talk? How was that experience?
Oh, wow. Thanks for posting that. Yeah, I was, for me, it was kind of like a out of body experience. I don't know if that I remember specifically what was happening. I remember before and after. In the moment, I have no idea what happened. So I showed up and there were really nice people and a lot of, nice snacks and getting to know people in the back and massages and makeup. And I was like, oh, this is fun. And then when it's close to your time, everything, for me anyway, so the room was packed. And luckily I had 5 friends show up. I didn't invite anyone. I don't like to speak with people I know in the audience because that puts more pressure. I'd rather have strangers and like whatever happens, nobody knows me. But I just go back to the back door and but I had 5 friends there which was nice. So the lights came on. I decided not to use any PowerPoints. I didn't want to have notes because if I practice and have notes, then I'm more worried about what am I missing? What did this mean? Then I get stuck in my head. So I just showed up and I had my outline in my head of what I want to say, but I don't know what's going to come out. And I usually don't watch anything I do either. So yeah, once the lights came on, there's a big old clock on the ground and it's like counting down. So there's a pressure. So I don't remember what happened in that moment from the minute like go to the minute of, all right, you're done. And then I saw people stand up and clap. I was like, okay, I think that went well.
Oh,
What I said until it came out. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes, not too bad. But yeah.
it was very, yeah, I bet. I cannot imagine. I think that takes so much strength and courage just to be able to stand up and do that and to share, your story. And we are very impressed with your TED Talk and just with your work in general. So can you tell us a little bit about your foundation and some of the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, and some of that is in the TED Talk, which I didn't plan on being that vulnerable on stage and knowing where that story could end up, but that's what came out. I think that goes to speak on why I do what I do. It is personal. It's my purpose, my calling. So my organization, and it actually started not too long ago, 2015, but I just was always pulled to do trauma work. That's what pulled me into crisis services. I thrive on helping, but before that, I didn't know why. I just thought, oh, I just enjoy this kind of work, or I want to help the world and save the world, but never connected to my own stuff. So it was just the one thing that shapes your world. I spent so much time internally running away from it, but externally being pulled by it. And so being a survivor, this happened to me when I was 11 and put it away, locked, put it in a million boxes. And then when I heard about psychology as a 10th grader, my first year here in the United States, and the idea of being healed, the healing of the mind. So I'm Rwandan, and we went through a genocide, and a million people died in a span of a month. And culturally, we don't talk about anything, pain, whatever, anything extreme. We bottle it in as a culture. And so when I heard about what psychology is and what it could do for people, I thought, that's what I want to do. But I'm doing it for everybody else because my country needs this. I'm good. I'm woke. I got this figured out. But everybody else needs it. So then when I went to Uganda and saw that little girl, and she had been raped the day before, and she was in class. And I know you all deal with this every day. It doesn't get easy. Even as many, it doesn't matter how many clients you see, every child is different and it hits different. And so, yeah, she was in class and everybody was okay with the fact that she was raped yesterday. And nothing was done, not because they don't care, but they've just been so desensitized by this and helpless. And so that little girl became my mirror, looking at her and trying to help her or give her hope. And it just clicked for me. Either you're being a hypocrite, you don't want to do the hard work you're asking these little girls to do, or you don't think you deserve the healing you're offering others. And neither of those choices were good enough for me to live with. So that's kind of what really sprung me into action for my own personal healing and for my organization. I'm a talker, so y'all are gonna have to like reel me in. So
No. Keep talking. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
We don't reel people in on this show for sure. let it all out. It's great. So you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but I think in the U.S. we have such a sort of U.S.-centric view of everything that goes on in the U.S. We need to fix things in here in this country, but we know that the sexual and gender-based violence is a huge problem globally. How since you have, I think, probably more of a global perspective than a lot of us do, what are some of the differences maybe and similarities between how sexual and gender-based violence is addressed in the U.S. versus in Uganda?
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the one issue that is global in nature, right? And it's as old as humans. And we all know mainly how it affects one person in one part of the world is exactly how it affects the other on the other side of the world. So in that sense, not too many differences. The one difference that I saw doing this work here in the US and then doing it in Rwanda and Uganda is the access to resources. And even that is true here, right? Like we have seen over and over, even more so now with the Me Too movement, people asking for justice in a country that is looked at as the most, as the leading democratic country with a justice system that should work. We have way more like same programs in the hospitals. You should be getting a rape kit when this happens. And we saw the Detroit case of all these backed up cases in storage, right? So even with that much access to what should work, at least systems in place that should be working, they still don't work the way we would love to see them do. But in Uganda or in a lot of developing countries, it's kind of an extreme where this child I'm talking about, I'll give another example of the 5-year-old who came in right after she heard about this, the grandmother did. And she had been raped by her grandfather who was HIV positive. And the hospital won't even see her unless she can pay an equivalent of $5. And for $5, this little girl is HIV positive now. She could have had that pill that could have reversed all of this. She could be thriving today, but they couldn't raise $5 in a span of 72 hours that she needed. So that's the extent to which this is detrimental to their lives. Not only the mental trauma, you have that poverty piece that adds on a layer to how this is responded to. Then another piece is the culture. And again, globally, we all know there is so much denial around SGBV, and there's so many myths that people want to hold true just so they can keep their worldview safe. Most people don't want to believe. Somebody said this, and that was the first time it occurred to me. Well, not occurred to me, but just kind of highlighted it, that all of us know who the survivors are, but how many of us can name the perpetrators, right? For all the survivors we know in the news and all of that, unless it's the Epsteins and the Cosbys, most people day to day in our churches, in our communities, most of us can't name a perpetrator, but we can name most survivors, right? Why is that? And that is so in cultures such as Ugandan cultures, or especially the collectivistic cultures, having that the honor system in the family, or not shaming, keeps silence around this issue and empowers the perpetrator. Silence always empowers the perpetrator. So changing the culture around that and the myths is, we're getting better in the US, after still not there, but it's even worse on the other side. So part of what we do is also that raising awareness, educating, ending that baton of silence, which is for me what I've taken on as my personal goal in life. If I can end silence around this issue for one person, that's a successful career for me.
That's awesome that you mentioned that. And you mentioned that sexual and gender-based violence is a huge global issue that we see everywhere. It doesn't discriminate against any place, any gender, any race, anything like that. And a lot of times people aren't really sure how they can help with something that's so broad and such a huge issue. What are some steps that people can take to help contribute to this fight?
Yeah, I think that captures that piece about silence first and foremost. For people who are, if you know somebody who has gone through this, right? It's such a big issue, and it is so delicate and scary that a lot of people don't want to have that as a conversation. Like, oh, that's a lot. So one is continuing to have those conversations with your kids, with your friends, with, just in general, or when you hear information that is just harmful or that keeps the myths going, around consent, and especially men. There are a lot of good men, more good men than the ones who are, we know perpetrators are can be both men and women, but higher percentage is men. And so usually you see a lot of the good ones, the Alexes of this world. Not everybody's at the forefront of this fight, right? And so they would rather be silent when they hear that kind of conversation, the locker room talk that we heard from our leader, that they don't call that out. So that's one way you can help on a personal level. And then you can do to the different levels. And then if you know of a survivor, or if you happen to come upon one in the moment, knowing what to do is so important. And you all do such an incredible job educating the community and the parents on how to support survivors and working with the police and all of that. And the piece about always acknowledging it's not their fault, and being there to support, being educated about resources on where to send people when they need this is so key. The biggest way we can put our money where our mouth is, right? Like supporting people like you all. We're in this community, but most people don't know the kind of work you do until they need it, right? And unfortunately, we don't want people to get to that point where they need us. Really, I think we will all be successful when we're out of a job, if we no longer have to advocate or educate or support another child, excuse me, that I think that's when we've done our job. So supporting organizations like yours, like ours, like the hotlines, wherever we put our money, that's where our values are. So if as a community, as an individual, your value is to have a safe place for all children, let's support the people who provide that. That's another way to do that work. And it all starts with your own. What are your own thoughts on sexual violence? Most people will never think about it until somebody they love is affected, right? And so we have to also keep that in mind. And working with this organization, we just collaborated to send a letter to Congress asking for more money. They just released a budget, their stimulus budget for children and adolescent support of sexual survivors. And it's so little. So a few organizations put together and were sending this letter. But the thing is about that is most of us don't even know what that is, right? Like we don't know what is our government doing to protect our children? What are my personal beliefs about this? And so what that woman talked about that really stayed with me is about climate change, how that movement has everybody involved. That even a little girl will talk to you about not using a plastic straw. I take a walk with my kids and they want to pick up trash because they like, people are littering. They are ruining our environment. And as activists in this work, we need to come together and figure out what is our straw for SGBV. What is that conversation that my 6-year-old can talk to you about it and a 9-year-old can talk to you about it? That is not a shameful conversation. So all of us to not work in silos, but continue to wonder, how can we engage each and everyone in our homes, community-wide, in the conversation that with climate change is engaging everyone, so we can all do something.
I think that's so great because I think, we talk about it. It's a taboo subject and people feel really uncomfortable when we start having those conversations with them. And if we can sort of break down that barrier where it isn't something that anybody should be ashamed to talk about, because I think as much as we want to distance ourselves from something that is really uncomfortable, I think what we all need to kind of, break down and sort of realize is that all of us know somebody who has been through something, some kind of abuse or, sexual assault or physical abuse. Like these are not, just the people that you see on the news. This is a significant problem that impacts somebody that it's just that they haven't told you, and I think that if we were able to see that there is a loved one in all of our lives who's been impacted by this in some form or fashion, I hope that can sort of be the catalyst for people to sort of open their minds and start having those conversations. Because I think you're right, that's where we need to start. Mm-hmm. Changing hearts and changing minds. So our last question is one that we ask all of our guests. There's been so much talk, especially during, these last few months, about heroes and people, standing up for what they believe in and, taking care of others in times that are really difficult. So we were just curious as to, when you hear the word hero, what does that mean to you?
Ooh. And when I hear hero, well, now because it's in my forefront, I hear he first. So I'm like, heroes and sheroes. So I'm gonna point that out because those have been the ones only highlighted in our histories, right? So when I hear that word hero, I think of somebody who follows, and I did not think through this because I wanted it to be authentic when you asked me. I saw the questions and I intentionally not do my homework or trying to sound profound. I wanted to come from the heart because it always sounds fake when you just do all this research and you try to remember the big words. But I think of someone who steps outside of themselves and unapologetically and authentically follow their calling, who live to at least change one life, one situation in their lifetime without thinking about how that affects them, right? Like just being so driven by the well-being of others, the courage not to stand by when there's injustice, big or small. And usually more of the heroes are the ones not in our books. Those are the grandmothers, the mothers, the day-to-day individuals who stand up for somebody somewhere, who change a child's life, the teachers that nobody ever hears about. Those are the people I think of. They follow their calling and purpose to make this world and another life better. Yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, we wanted to thank you again, Tabitha, for joining us. This was a really fun interview. I had a great time. I feel like I learned a lot. And, thank you for all the work that you're doing, not only, here locally in our community, but, halfway across the world too. I think you're, making a huge difference in many, many people's lives. And, we, as an organization can't thank you enough for, being, again, one of those leaders in a community and a leader in, a service and, with a population of people that are, really near and dear and close to our hearts too. So thank you again for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you. Thank you all. You are one of our local heroes, seriously. Like those children in their most terrifying time and their parents, and you will guide them through the most traumatic and worst experience. And we don't have evening news highlighting self-talk. We don't see magazines with you all as the covers, but you are all doing that work, that calling and purpose that is so difficult. So thank you all for what you do, and together one day we won't have to do this again.
Right. I hope so. All right. Thanks, Tabitha.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Bye.
Bye.